Okay, we now welcome on a very, 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 very special guest. This is a long time coming. It is Andrew Luck in studio. It is so long time coming, Andrew. I don't even know if you realize this, but your good friend and our good friend Sam Schwartzstein is here. He's been working on it for probably 6 or 7 years. But there was a moment where this podcast was going to read a book just to try to get you on this show. Do you know how hard that is for us to read a book? And we were willing to do it to try to get into your book club to have you come be a guest. So we've been waiting a long time for this.
That's amazing to know. I do think you can do it.
I don't know.
I know you can.
I
believe in you guys.
But that's like, just to put it in perspective, our listeners who've been doing this for 9 years are nodding along being like, holy shit. That's like when they're like, oh, do you pay for guests? No, we don't pay for guests, but we did almost read a book for Andrew Luck.
Yeah, we tried to read the book. We bought Boys in the Boat. I think that was book one of your book club.
Yep.
And we got through like the first page and we're like, this isn't for us. And then we had Blake Bortles on the show.
Yeah,
a friend of ours. And so we said, you know what? Instead of doing a book club, let's just do the Blake Bortles Wikipedia club.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where every time he's on the show, he'll pick a different topic. We'll all read that Wikipedia page and then we'll discuss.
Yeah.
Did it lead to substantive discussion about new topics? And
Yeah, there were.
Yeah.
There were a couple new topics.
I'm trying to remember what we
I
went
mean, the
over.
big one was that Blake learned that snow is wet. He had not realized it being from Florida.
From Duval.
Oh man, all right, let's start there because I have a million questions. But when you see an introductory press conference from a coach, knowing that you've lived it, are you like, should we as stupid fans judge this, or is it like this is all just the same shit?
You have to
Liam Cohen doing the Duval. Oh, you didn't?
No.
All right, you just had that quote.
I don't have heavy internet presence or access. Honestly, everybody needs a friend like Sam for many, many reasons, including I know about you guys because he will send me text messages back in the day of Big Cat soccer takes.
Yeah, they were bad.
So that's how I know about you.
They were always bad.
No, they were great. I loved it.
we do think.
But you got to give me context.
Yeah. We'll skip that. Well, the phone thing. Do you still have a flip phone?
No, when my daughter was born, I realized I needed pictures.
Yes.
It was a deep, primal need to take pictures of my daughter and share pictures of my daughter, and now
that's fair.
And receive pictures of my daughter.
How long did you? I mean, that flip phone thing that was real. You were just like, I don't want to be attached to the internet. I don't want to have people be able to text me all the time and call me all the time. I want a flip phone.
Yeah, it was real. I'll be honest. I don't think I thought too much about it. I had it in high school, and I did not feel the need to upgrade per se, and I still am happy I didn't upgrade until when I upgraded, and there's still a massive part of me that wants to go back.
Yeah.
But having a real job and like look at me now, I got 2 phones, baby, 2 iPhones.
Oh,
2 computers.
So you're texting like nonstop now.
I'm trying not to.
Yeah.
But when you got 2, it's like, you are on call with your real job. You are the GM of Stanford.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? Is that the official title?
Oh, it's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
So how is that? What is your day-to-day like?
The day-to-day is a lot. We hopped in during the transfer portal. And when I say we, I mean the assistant GM as well, also named Sam, different Sam than that Sam. Also Stanford grad, a great guy. But we hopped in during the transfer portal. And the day-to-day during a transfer portal was a lot different than the day-to-day now of like, okay, the roster, there's some solidity around it. We obviously prepare for another portal in April. But different focus now. Feels a little bit like a 9-to-5 job, not like oh my gosh, I've got to call this parent up of a 20-year-old wide receiver from University XYZ and discuss many things about why Stanford makes sense for him. So it's been a lot. It's been like drinking from a fire hose in many ways, but I love the school, love the university, and we're on the right path.
Were you watching tape of some of the transfer portal guys?
The system that we had, I inserted myself of watching the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that's, like I had to. Like I played quarterback.
Right.
Obviously that is where my expertise is, and I'd watch a little bit else. But no, I trust our folks, our guys and gals, to go through the process and make sure we're getting out there with kids that can play ball and handle the academic rigor.
Yeah.
So let's just say me and Big Cat are 5-star recruits, both play quarterback.
Yeah.
What's your pitch to us? Because we're also getting offers from Miami, LSU, Ohio State, James Madison, all the big dogs, University of Texas.
Wisconsin.
And then you want Stanford to be in that. You want us to be Stanford football players.
All right, there's a couple things. One, John Elway, Jim Plunkett, myself, Kevin Hogan. Incredible history. Our head coach, quarterback. When I went to Stanford, head coach was a quarterback, Jim Harbaugh. Your guys' best friend, right? Understand, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Two, we are competitive in the NIL world. All right, and the Stanford decision both is NIL here and now, and then I think in many ways OG NIL of like you're going to be connected to the best network in the world in whatever industry you want to go in. And this place produces leaders at a scale that no other place in the world does. I mean, Stanford is special in that way. And you're going to have a long NFL career. You're going to crush it in college. You're going to go to bowl games, going to do all that fun stuff. And then at some point, you're going to have to transition to be a podcast host and running a multi-billion-dollar media conglomerate. And you're going to want to know Stanford people to help you get there.
Okay, question. That was a really good speech, and we're very interested in Stanford. If we attend Stanford, will we have to read a book?
Yeah, baby.
Okay. All right. So we're out. We're out.
Now, my condition is I want to have a phone call with Tiger Woods.
Oh.
Can you make that happen?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Okay.
That's a good call.
Tiger was an honorary captain for us twice while I played. I think he's been honorary captain a few times. There's a great story. We lost both of those games, though, so I got like a bone to pick with Tiger about that. But it's a great story about Tiger that David Shaw, our old head coach, used to say. And he was our coordinator earlier in my career at Stanford, where David played for Stanford. So they got back at like 2 or 3 a.m. from like Corvallis or somewhere, played a game in the weekend, and it was raining, and it doesn't off rain up in Palo Alto and on campus, although it is raining today, I think. When they get back, it's like 2 or 3 a.m. They're riding their bikes back to the dorms, and there's a guy standing in like the grass in the courtyard between the dormitories, like with some type of club, like whacking the ground. And people are like, who is that? What's going on? So Coach Shaw walks over, and it's like, Tiger, what are you doing? He's like, it doesn't rain enough here. I need to practice in the rain.
That's perfect.
I love that.
Committed to it. Did you, when David Shaw was your head coach, were you ever like, hey, maybe we don't punt every time?
No.
Okay, all right. That's just a gambling thing where he has punted in like, I think probably on the like plus 35. I think I've seen him punt before. He likes to punt.
He's not punted on the plus 35.
Yeah, I believe so against Northwestern. I'm pretty sure I could find him punting.
Okay, the internet will tell us.
All right, I'm going to find it. I'm going to find
Shaw's worst punts.
I mean, he liked to punt. There was times when he liked to punt. All right, so how are you feeling physically? Are you still have any nagging injuries, or you feel good?
I feel great. I am grateful for where my body's at. I can do I can ski with my kids and ski with my dad and ski with my friends. I can go surf. I can fly fish. I can hike. I can camp. I can try to play old man pickup basketball, but that's
awesome.
hard. Like, you got to be in shape.
Yeah.
And I'm not in shape enough to do that.
Or you just find somebody that's equally in bad shape, and you say, hey, let's just not run. I'll defend you. You defend me. We're not going to set any picks. We'll hang out at the 3-point line.
Yeah.
That's a good way.
But you don't often get to just do that, though. Like,
yeah.
Sometimes you actually have to play defense and box out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I don't like that. Every time I play basketball, if I just get through without an injury, I'm like, that's a good day.
It's a win.
That's a great day playing basketball.
That's a big win.
And it's fun to play pickup hoops. Like, genuinely fun.
Yeah. It's good to just get a sweat going.
That as well.
And get a sweat going, not get injured. That's a successful workout for me. Your coach at Stanford, Jim Harbaugh, great friend of ours. We all know he's a special guy. He's a very different guy. When was the first time that you realized that, hey, Jim Harbaugh is wired a little bit differently from everybody else?
That's a good question.
Good question.
Thank you.
Great question.
Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Fantastic question. He certainly has a charisma and an energy that comes off of him that is authentic. And it's part of what I think drew a lot of us recruiting-wise to Stanford at that moment. That he was hired after a 1-11 season and some down years. And so to go there around that time, I think you took a leap of faith. I certainly took a leap of faith. But I think the 17-year-old Andrew, myself, realized that he was going to get the most out of me as a quarterback, like that it was going to be hard and challenging. But that's, I think, what I wanted, and I think what a lot of the guys who went to Stanford wanted was to be pushed and to get to become the best version of football player they could be under him. trying to think of specific moments. I do remember sitting in his office with my father. Like my dad took me for spring break out to the West Coast to like do like unofficial visits or whatever, and then go ski in Tahoe, which was an awesome father-son trip, and go to a San Jose Earthquakes game, which was super fun too. I remember sitting in his office, and we were sitting there during construction, and Jim was like, don't mind the construction. They're building me a bathroom. we're trimming fat, we're cutting drag, really efficient. I thought, this guy's thinking about efficiency on football, so he can have his own bathroom. And this bathroom's a little bit controversial. I think there's a great Pete Carroll quote about it where he's like, well, we at USC walk down the hall like everybody else to use the men's room.
The rivalry rocks.
That's wasted energy.
Yeah.
Yep. Cut and drag, trimming the fat. And that was how the experience for playing him was like. I mean, you were kept on your toes. There was a lot of energy. You were pushed hard. It was challenging. Football's not an easy game. It's not easy to be a good team. It's not easy to develop, players. And he certainly pushed us and challenged us. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, he is a great coach, and you see it even with the Chargers this year. They're in a rebuilding year, and they went to the playoffs, and his culture, you just see it in the post game and how much everyone buys in. Was that immediate when you got to Stanford and you're like, okay, this is like everyone's bought into what he's selling, and you can feel it in the locker room and you can feel it in training camp?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I'm gonna stop saying good question.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Is this a bit?
Every single time.
Is this like a bit that
no matter what.
When you say good question, then we all compliment the question. But it's a very effective technique in terms of like if you get asked a question, then you say good question. It gives you like 5 seconds to think about what your answer is going to be.
And then we just compliment each other.
Yeah. I'm hedging for time.
Yeah.
I forgot the question.
Yeah, it was such a good question. Can you ask that good question? It was such a good question. Like in terms of culture, when you get to Stanford and you're watching how he deals with the team and how he coaches the team, was it immediate where you're like, okay, I made the right choice, and what he's doing and what he's building here is going to be special?
Yeah, I didn't doubt that for a second, and the staff was awesome. I mean, Coach Shaw, Willie Taggart. I mean, like we were around an amazing staff. Our strength coach Shannon Turley. But I also think, like, as an 18-year-old, part of me, I think once you get there, you're just like, I just want to do everything right and be a good teammate and be a player. And you don't. I wasn't thinking too big picture about it, and I certainly didn't go in. I decided to go to Stanford, so why would I go in and doubt what this was all about?
Right.
So I don't think I was thinking too much sort of at the meta level about it. And then I think the proof does have to be in the pudding on things, right? Like, and I think while we redshirted my freshman year, we won more games than the previous year. So you can point to that as proof of progress. And then I think we understood that this was going to work, and it sort of did. And also, like, I got to play around there. There's some really incredible football players. Like last night, we had Sam and I had dinner with Jim Dre, the tight ends coach for the Chicago Bears. He was one of the older guys in the locker room when we came there. He was an incredibly tough dude.
Yeah.
Like he tore everything in his knee on punt before we got there and walked himself unaided across the field, to get off, right?
Right.
And then comes back, and he's I think he ended his career at Stanford as second team all-conference, Pac-10 at the time, RIP. With 17 catches.
Right.
Like what tight end gets a second team all conference?
Right.
But he was tough. He blocked. He did everything right. So we played with a bunch of good players and had a lot of fun and bought in.
Yeah.
Did they call in the big guns when they were recruiting you? And did they have Stanford Steve give you a call?
No, I didn't talk to Stanford Steve till I'd made it.
Okay.
Yeah, then he gave me the time of day.
Yeah, then he was like, all right.
I love you, Steve.
By the way, 4th and 5 from the Northwestern 37.
Okay.
Punt.
Is that plus 35?
I'm just saying, punt.
It's plus 37.
I mean, that's a crazy punt with Christian McCaffrey. 10-3 game, second half, 4th and 5 on the Northwestern 37. I remember these things.
That is impressive. He's the winningest coach all time in Stanford football.
Doesn't
history,
matter.
2 Rose
For
Bowls.
me, it's like if I ever meet him, I'm just gonna be like, "Why'd you punt on the 37 in 2015 against Northwestern?"
That game was here.
Yeah, it was, and it was. I'm pretty sure I bet Stanford because I was like, "Oh, there's no chance that Northwestern's going to beat Stanford," and then he punted on the 37, and I was mad for life.
I'm so uncomfortable. You talk about betting on Stanford in this shit right now.
Listen, you guys were good.
No more.
What about the bowl game against Oklahoma State when you ran the same run play? Was it 13 times in a row? Was that it?
No, not in the bowl game versus Oklahoma State.
Oh, who was it?
I need to check the archives with
what?
Sam.
Sam just
it was
said
against USC.
Sam just said that you punted, 30?
We only punted 34 times.
You only punted 34 times when you were the quarterback.
Okay, well, you were a little
pretty
different than I mean, you don't have to have your teams punt that much. So, all right, so
a punt can be an incredibly effective play
from the 37.
Like I got to play with Pat in Indy, and he had an All-Pro year as a punter, and it like when you're pinning guys in the 10 and the 5.
Oh, this was a touchback, by the way.
That's
It's a 17-yard punt.
Yeah.
So there you go.
next topic.
Walked right into that one. I do love the fact that you enjoy a good punt. Jim Tressel, he
taught
loves
us
the
that,
punt.
yeah.
He's
And a good sweater vest too.
yeah, he's the biggest fan. It's the only play in football where it changes possession.
Yeah.
Like designed. Yeah.
By design.
By design.
By design.
So what was the hardest thing that you had to do at Stanford? You said that it was like you wanted to challenge yourself. You get there and you're like, oh, this is really hard playing competitive college football. What was the hardest thing that stood out and you're like, okay, this isn't high school anymore?
We had tough practices. Now, as a quarterback, football practice is fun. I think as a lineman, football practice isn't fun.
Yeah.
Right? So like we used to, like freshman year, redshirting, and maybe redshirting is not in vogue anymore, and I'm not sure why. I think one of Coach Taylor's, our head coach's quotes that we were talking recently, I was like, Andrew, not all experience is good experience. You can go out early in football and be damaged in a sense.
Right.
Experience. But redshirting, we used to have these Wednesdays of just like grinder, full padded scout team. We were running the scout team. I maintain we may have had one of the better scout teams ever in the history of college football. Like David DeCastro, John Martin, Sam was center. Griff Whalen, Chris Owusu would come down and play. Like he was an All-American kick returner, fast and incredible. It was awesome. But these would be like 30 play periods of full pads against the, and we called it the Death March, and we would just sort of hum the Star Wars, whatever it is, bom, 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 like the whole time. But we survived those, and I think we proved our mettle to each other, and I think that sort of helped us build this mythology that we are a tough team. Even when we're redshirting, we're doing 30 plays in a row of run to get our guys ready. So that was fun. And balancing school and sports is hard. I mean, it is hard. We do read books and go to class and turn in our work and do all the little things right. And so while it's, you've got to go earn it. And I certainly believe that about Stanford. I also think it's why Stanford's so special for me and why I believe in it. And that the hard things genuinely have value to them.
Yeah.
And stuff that's given to you for free or for nothing is cheap.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And there's nothing sort of cheap about the Stanford experience.
What was it like being, for 2 years straight, everyone being like, he's the number one pick, he's a generational talent? Because I always find that to be interesting to have that kind of pressure on a college kid when we've seen it a couple times where like a guy stays and everyone just is like, hey, they're talking about him. And then what ends up happening is you kind of get picked apart a little bit because it's 2 straight years of being the number one pick. And you're like, hey, this is kind of crazy. Just because I stayed, you're going to pick me apart now. Did you feel that pressure of everyone talking about you like that?
Bad question.
Okay.
Bad question.
Bad question.
So look, like I think, did my friends talk about that? No, not at all. Did my teammates talk about it? No, not at all. Like, did my girlfriend, who's not my wife, talk about that? Not at all. Did my friends on campus, professors? No. And I had a flip phone and I wasn't scrolling through whatever it was at the time. So I think I was aware of the pressure. I also knew I'd earned, but part of it was like I was aware also of how good I was at football.
Right.
So okay, cool. People think I'm the number one pick. Yeah, I understand why. I'm probably the best player.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't.
That's got to be a cool feeling.
It wasn't like it was okay. And I don't mean that in my ego liked it for sure, but it was also like, I don't know, when you know, you know.
Yeah. Right.
It's like earned confidence.
Yeah.
Right.
And I knew that I was on a team that earned all of that confidence.
Right.
Like it was not bravado. I think it was more of a level of self-awareness that okay, yeah, I get it, cool. But I wasn't surrounding myself with it in a day. There wasn't a slow drip into my brain of go out, you're number one, whatever.
That's a very healthy way to deal with it because I don't know a lot of 20, 21-year-olds that would be able to deal with it that way, having the whole world talk about you that way for 2+ years of, hey, you're the number one pick.
Whole world, though?
Yeah,
There's a lot of people in the world that don't care about
They all love
college
football.
not true.
No, that's not true. Yeah, those are losers.
Yeah.
We don't care about those people.
They don't listen to the show. They don't exist.
Why do you get out of bed in the morning if you're not doing your mock drafts?
The whole world that I care about is what I should have said.
Okay, thanks, Big Cat.
So as you go into that process and you're interviewing, all the teams are bringing you in, they're talking to you. Actually, our colleague, John Gruden, said that you blew him away on the whiteboard.
I have some questions from Coach Gruden.
Yeah,
He
so Coach
sent me
Gruden
some.
fell in love with you immediately. I'm assuming that you talked to a lot of teams that were not ever going to be in a position to draft you. But how did those interviews go with temes that just kind of wanted to?
I'll be honest, I didn't talk to teams that weren't in a position to draft me. I think they didn't want to waste their time. I didn't want to waste mine. I should say, the 49ers staff was all my old Stanford staff. By and large. So, of course, to talk to them and hang out and chat, when at the combine and show up. I wanted to get that experience and go to the room where everybody's sitting there and grab, that was cool. But, I only really spoke with Indianapolis and Washington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, I think I knew.
Yeah.
And Indy did make it somewhat clear eventually that, we'd like to pick you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just having the horseshoe and luck next to it.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like it was destiny at that point.
It's destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want your Gruden questions right now?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. What the first one he said you have the greatest snap count in history, so he wants you to do the snap count. He's like, you got to get him to do the snap count.
Let's talk snap count for a sec, because this
Okay.
is such a niche part of playing quarterback that I worry so much with this whole clap thing.
Okay.
And I think there's value to the clap, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Pat Mahomes is incredible at it.
Mm-hmm.
I bet if your stats, if your analytics team, I saw the whole analytics quarter.
We've got a big
Have you
Big
seen our analytics team? It's
analytics
these
team.
three guys.
Big analytics
It's
team.
Pug.
How many PhDs between the
They're just going to Google it, and they'll probably Google it incorrectly.
But I bet if you look at how many offsides he's drawn over his career since starting, I bet it's going to be probably the highest ever.
It's because the refs cheat.
Yeah.
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 I don't
For
know
the
about anything
Chiefs.
about that.
Rodgers.
And then Rodgers.
Yep.
Yeah. So those two I really enjoyed. Certainly Aaron, because he was older and you grew up watching, and I remember all the free plays. I feel like he would just hit a touchdown every other game to Jordy Nelson on a free play that was busting. They'd throw it up, or Randall Cobb, it was awesome, or James Jones. And then when I got to Stanford, Jim Harbaugh would do a lesson for us on. He's like, you gotta have a voice to play quarterback. You gotta have a voice. You gotta have it's gotta be gravelly. It's gotta cut. It's gotta cut through. It's gotta cut through everybody. You gotta cut. And so he wanted us to have and not like red. It had to have it had to cut. It had to go. So I embraced it. I think part of what I loved about playing quarterback, there's all these little things that you actually can work on.
Yeah.
And working on a snap count was something that was fun and enjoyable. And we didn't draw a bunch of people off sides at Stanford, not at all. But we were doing double counts and long counts because we actually had play calls where we killed and alerted things and needed to see what the defense was doing. So I feel very fortunate I was taught how to play quarterback while I was there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Harbaugh, David Shaw, the way Greg Roman taught run game to me, it was a gift. Right? I think I got to, it was awesome. That's what the identity of our team in many ways was, this very physical, tough, smart run game. And also when I got to the NFL, I felt like I'd been prepared to handle a run game.
Right.
And if you can't operate a run game in the NFL, there's only so far your team's going to go.
Right.
I think I truly believe that. And then snap count. Once I got to the NFL, though, Bruce Arians would dog my snap count in the first mini camp, because I would sit there and go, and go like, Sigo, red 80, just draw it out, because I was thinking, I was like, oh fuck, this is overwhelming. I'm playing an NFL defense. And Andrew, wait, and BA in his voice, which I can't do a great impression of, who was amazing as well, and worth probably a podcast series on him as a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had some very nice things to say about you, too.
Yeah, we've had him on a couple
nice
times.
things to say about BA as well.
So we asked Bruce Arians if you were to take all the quarterbacks you've ever coached, because he's coached so many great quarterbacks, and if you were to piece them together by body part, by brain, okay, whose legs are you putting on here? Whose right arm? Whose brain? Whose heart? Whose hips are you taking? And he goes, I'm going to stop you. It's just all one person. And the answer is Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
For everything.
That's very kind.
So he
of
thought
Bruce.
that you were the best quarterback at everything that he'd ever coached. But I'm sure that there was something like when he was working with you that you guys just clicked immediately and kind of got each other.
He was awesome. He taught football and looked at football in such a different way. And like he coached everybody hard. And like hard. And it was and I appreciated that so much. And then he'd cuss you out or like, whatever, very colorful, like an odd mixture of like East Coast and Southern accent. I don't know quite where it lands.
Yeah.
With like real pirate-filled language. And like he'd tell Bear Bryant stories. Like, oh my God, he coached under Bear Bryant at some point. Like,
yeah.
That's neat. But like with the snap count, he was like, Andrew, what are you doing? Speed it up. Like we gotta go. And this was part of his thing. Bruce he didn't care about time of possession. He cared how many points he wanted a point a minute. If we couldn't get a point a minute, what's the point of holding on to the ball? What does it matter? But he was awesome. And then I realized in snap, like, so with snap, I'm gonna go back to the snap count because it's related to Bruce. Bruce was really fun to play with. I had him for a year, and it was an incredible year too because Coach Pagano got sick with leukemia, and Bruce took over, and like I was certainly very focused on playing quarterback because you have to be. It's too overwhelming of a position to think about much else. Requires, but like it wasn't only honestly till I retired and looked back like, oh my God, like Coach Pagano was going through he was in a cancer ward 5 blocks from the stadium. Like that's scary,
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts. And so BA like guided that ship, and then certainly got the opportunity to be the head coach and have this amazing success, which we were super stoked for. But with snap counts, because we got to go back to snap counts.
Gruden said you have the best ever, greatest snap count in history.
It wasn't, but I started to realize like Anthony Costanza, like left tackles. Like I think there's like 2 personalities that play left tackle. Like either you're completely type B and just like chill, or you are as neurotic can be and just like so focused on everything to help give you an advantage, because it is a tough position to play. I mean, really, really, really tough. And so I realized that Anthony and I started having these conversations about how to help each other, and realized snap count was needed. Like to absolutely, and it's obviously there's self-preservation as part of that. But realize like when you're under center, on the hut, if you're doing a hard count, you needed to flex your bottom hand to make it look like the ball is about to come. So if you had a 3-tech or a nose who got the jump on hand, like you use that. You had to marry snap counts and words from previous, and I wasn't, this was a thing. This was an iterative process, so I was certainly better at it at the end of my career than not. But snap counts. I hope football doesn't lose snap counts because they're too good.
Yeah.
Did you try to get me and Big Cat to jump?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways, but like the biggest way is this. Everybody knows, hut is like the word to go.
Yeah.
So I preferred the hut rhythm as opposed to the hut rhythm.
Okay.
Right? So an on one would be like, so go, color number hut. So go, green 80 hut. And that's the ball snapped, right? And so then a hard count, the one I preferred, the one I settled on, the one I'd consider as part of my, it's my baby.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious if other coaches or other quarterbacks think about this. Was like the so go green 90, hot.
I jumped. That was awesome.
I don't get to do that enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's your baby.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go walk through the airport. I'm gonna walk through Midway today, just thinking about that all day.
That's great.
You'd be like, got you to move.
Yeah.
It's
a great question by All right, so here's the other question. This one's not as nice. He said, I thought he had the ugliest beard in the history of quarterbacks, and I studied this carefully.
It's a weird question.
I like that. I studied this carefully because I actually believe Gruden.
Does John Gruden not study anything?
No. Yeah, right. I believe that he literally had like a big board of all the beards and was like, I
believe in second chances. I believe I deserve a second chance.
It looks
with
good
my
now.
facial hair.
Yeah.
I think we're in the same sort of. I can't grow as good of a mustache as you, though.
But it does get long. When it gets long, it gets a little unkempt.
It definitely was unkempt.
Yeah.
What time when you play quarterback do you have to shave, though?
Yeah.
What time you got to cut drag? You got to trim the fat. You got to focus on what's important. My beard was not important.
So you had that. I read that incredible article in 2022 about you and like post football and everything in the decision, and you had that quote of like, you don't have time for basically anything else if you're a quarterback in the NFL. And that one quote, I can't remember who said it to you, like, if you're a quarterback in the NFL, you have to think of yourself as God's gift. Otherwise, the doubt creeps in. And that's got to be a weird feeling to have to hold yourself to that and be like, I have to control everything and only think about this one thing. Not exactly healthy, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think this is an idea that I would certainly love to keep fleshing out and talk to others about.
Yeah.
I think it is fascinating. And it certainly the quote comes off as quite extreme, and maybe in real life it's not as extreme, perhaps. But I do think there are kernels of truth in there for sure.
Well, I mean, you're a quarterback they call it the most important position in sports for a reason.
Yeah.
It is the franchise rests on the quarterback's shoulders, whether they want it to or not.
Yeah, I do, when I think about it and whatever, had the time to process and think, I do think when you go on the field as a quarterback, you cannot leave any room for doubt. And I think one way of doing that is and especially if it's connected to preparing and working hard and being on it, et cetera. But you have to go out there thinking that you are God's gift to this thing. That's a level. It is an intense level of confidence.
Yeah.
And I do think and I grew up in football. I had, my dad was my Pop Warner coach. He played quarterback. So obviously as a kid I had a schema and I want to be like my dad. I want to play quarterback. And then I had great high school coaches, Coach Allen, Coach Green, Coach Sanders, Jim Harbaugh, David Shaw at Stanford. So I was taught that you had to work hard. You didn't just roll the ball out there. The preparation was part of it. And so that was part of what I knew I had to convince myself. You can do this, dude. Yeah, you're talented, all this stuff, but you're putting the work in, and you're putting the work in with a team, and that was the only scheme I knew. And I did not, I did not, while I played, do a great job of tending to life outside of it, including relationships, and thankfully, didn't burn too many bridges and mess too much up irrevocably. But that it's an odd balance, I think, for those playing the position.
Yeah.
And frankly, I haven't talked to many others about it, that have played quarterback in the NFL, sort of at that level. And it is something I'm curious to hear from others about.
Yeah.
Of how they sort of psychologically handle it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the great quarterbacks kind of see that same burden and that same responsibility. They have to throw themselves into it because they feel, okay, it's on me in order to go out there and, do the best for my teammate, do the best for my coach. I'm going to need to be the most prepared person in the world. But then there's some guys that are just like, no, it's a job. It's fun. Yeah. But they don't reach that high level of success. Would you say that, did you get burned out on playing quarterback?
That's a good question.
Good question.
Thank you.
Damn it.
No, it's okay. It was a good question. I could tell. I could tell you
that
meant
one was a good question.
Is there a burnout factor?
Not about being maybe a little bit about being quarterback. And I think in that article you referenced, Big Cat, that I think I addressed that to a certain degree. Injuries adding up, I think is a common theme in any professional athlete's sort of coming to an end in a career, and that was certainly a big part of mine. And yes, parts of it I think got tiring. Maybe that's too light of a way to say it. Maybe burnout is part of it for sure.
Yeah. Was football still fun for you at the end?
No, not like a game. And I found the fun in it again though, not playing, which is I'm not gonna say full circle, but I think in the the windy way that life works. I did not love football when I did not love football like you need to play quarterback. I think I also realized that to go back to playing quarterback, you're either all in or you're not. It's to me, in my mind, the scheme of how you emotionally invested, physically, psychologically, spiritually invested in quarterback is it's binary.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You either aren't or you are 100% in. And I hit a point in my life where I was I am unwilling to hop to the 100% in, so I can't do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the article was, like I said, really great because I feel like you were able to fully explain it. And I reading it was oh, I think I understand the complexity of this because as fans, we just see it as Andrew Luck just walked away from something that everyone would dream, their dream job. How could he do this? But Were you shocked yourself when you came to the conclusion, like your own conclusion, where you're like, oh shit, I actually think I do kind of want to walk away? Because I feel like that would be a very illuminating moment where it clicks and you're like, oh man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was by far the hardest decision of my life. And then when it did sort of finally, when I allowed myself to ask the actual question that mattered.
Right.
And then and allowed myself to give an answer to the question that was truthful. Mm-hmm. It was like, whoa, okay, this has been hard, but yeah, this is what I have to do.
Right.
So there was a moment of clarity. It was the hardest decision of my life, but also like the most clarity I've had about something. And look, I did not feel alone through that as well. And I can't imagine going through a process feeling alone.
Right.
Through that, like my girlfriend at the time, her wife, like my agents, my friends. I mean, Sam flew to Indianapolis to talk to me, and this was kick. But like, man, it feels amazing to have people that love you around
right,
you.
yeah.
Like that's like we all deserve that. And then I'll say this: it was my dream to play quarterback, and I feel so grateful and privileged that I got to do that.
Right.
It was awesome, and it did not end fairy tale-esque by any means. You have an AFC finalist banner.
Yeah.
It's a great
For
banner.
us, you don't have a Super Bowl banner for the.
How many guys can say they have an AFC finalist banner?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Not a lot. Because they don't make those banners.
When they hung that up, were you like, oh God?
I didn't pay one bit of attention. I have no idea when it was hung up or taken down. I understand that you guys have had a story about it
Yes.
for a while.
This is back to you having a flip
is-
phone, which is smart.
Yeah, which is cool, but like
Yeah.
I don't know. Sam explained on the drive-in that like there's going to be a banner there, and I was like, I think I know that there's some story behind this, and then it turns out the banner's huge.
Yeah,
Massive.
enormous,
Yeah.
enormous. So, all right. So when you do make the decision, and I always felt bad that it like got leaked, obviously with Schefter, and then you have the moment on the field. That had to be like really hard to have it be rushed, because you had it probably in your head like, hey, this is how I want to do it. I know it's a big decision. I know it's going to shock some people, but then have it kind of taken away from you where someone else reports it and you don't get to say it, and then you have to deal with the fans on the field and everything. That sucks.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, it was difficult.
Yeah.
Also, like you survive, you move
Yeah.
on. I felt a couple things. One, I had written a couple drafts of like a retirement press conference. It wasn't like going to be a happy retirement press conference, obviously, not like the traditional ones you see. But I'd written a couple drafts and shared it with Matt Conti, our PR guy at the time, and I still think so. So he at least had a copy of something for me to talk about after the game. So I was thankful about that. I felt good about it. I was like, this is like writing a paper for school, and you actually put in a couple drafts and get notes back from the professor.
Right.
Like, yeah, good job, Andrew. Way to go. Pat on the back.
Yeah.
Two things. I had taken the opportunity to tell the guys on the team on Friday and Saturday morning that I'd been with for a while.
That's good.
That I'd felt very much like
Yeah.
tethered to, like T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah.
Who I love.
Yeah.
And who made playing football fun.
Yeah.
Like throwing to a dude like that. I don't think people understand how fun it is when like you have a connection to a receiver like that, when you're rookies together, and you like fun. And
Yeah.
and so that was like the real bittersweet stuff was telling him, and Jack Doyle and Anthony and Quentin Nelson, who I didn't, we'd played 1 year together as a rookie, but like just like a lovable and loving guy.
Yeah.
And Ryan Kelly. So I'd had the chance to tell, and Clayton Geathers and some of the coaches. So at least, and I didn't have a chance to tell everybody, and that's what hurts, because being a teammate. But like to a certain degree, I was also quitting on them, and I
Right.
understand that like
It's
you know,
hard.
that's
yeah.
hard, and it's not. It's hard to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a part of me that like, yeah, I get.
Yeah.
It stinks. I live with that, knowing it, and that's okay. It's part of me. Yeah. The other thing is during the game, like I remember there were 8 minutes left, and I swear I felt the cameras turn on me or something, and like immediately. Like, I don't know if you've had this experience in life where there's just such certainty that something has happened.
Right.
It's like, oh shit, it's out.
Yeah.
I know it's out. And I just remember going and standing next to Anthony Costanzo, I think Mark Lewinsky and Ryan Kelly, and just standing between them. And just like, hey guys, I'm just going to stand between you
Right.
for the next 8 minutes.
Protect me one last time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm going to stand there. And again, I didn't feel alone.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't mean this in a cheesy way. Like I felt like they had my back,
Yeah.
for those 8 minutes. And And I'll be forever appreciative of that and indebted to that because they were great teammates in a moment they didn't have to be.
Yeah.
And
at all.
Then after this all comes out, were you aware that O.J. Simpson had just drafted you for his fantasy football team?
Yeah, you didn't think of the fantasy owners. That was my one qualm.
Everyone was doing the drafts, and then O.J., God rest his soul, friend of the program, he drafted Andrew Luck, and you just blindsided him. Did you ever apologize to O.J. for that?
Unaware, did not.
Yeah.
I had no need to apologize.
Yeah.
No.
But the you think about
Bad question.
Think about the fantasy owners.
You were
The
on
fantasy
O.J.'s
owners.
can't cut list, which is a good place to be.
That is. Huge place to
I don't
be.
get it. Don't explain.
The fantasy owners, though, that it is always fun. We mock it because it's like a player will get like a gruesome injury like week 2, and immediately people will be tweeting like, "Oh, my fantasy team's screwed." It's like, yeah, but that guy just got really hurt. Like, think about that. So yeah, you screwed the fantasy owners over that late in the preseason.
What do you guys enjoy mocking most?
I mean, there's a lot.
Can you give me a good question?
Darren Ravel, probably.
Yeah, Max. A lot of things. Basically, our whole show is basically the fact that sports are taken too seriously and it's just a joke. Like
that, I know about this show.
Yeah, like
I
it's
think
all.
like. Can I interview you guys for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like the genesis of it.
Good question.
Yeah, good question. Great question.
Good question.
You can say talk about. Reporters love doing that. Talk about the genesis.
Well, the genesis of it was more of a good statement.
Yeah.
Maybe it was. There's a try. Yeah, talk about that. Tell me. Enlighten me. Indulge me.
So no, we got very lucky because we started this at a time when podcasts were very new.
What year?
2016. So we're coming up on 9 years. So like now everyone has a podcast. We were not that podcast didn't exist before 2016, but there was definitely a wide open lane for us. And our goal from the very beginning was we have to have fun and make sure people know we're having fun because sports are supposed to be fun. And I think the world got very serious around that time as well. So we became a little bit of a breath of fresh air where it's like, hey, we're not gonna burden you with any big picture things, with any like politics, with any serious topics. We're going to watch sports and we're going to make fun of sports and make fun of ourselves more than anything. So that's been the big thing. And you did screw over the fantasy owners.
Yeah. Well, specifically OJ.
Yeah, specifically OJ. So like
tell me more about the genesis.
Yeah,
though.
but
Were you guys listening to sports radio? Like I used to listen to sports radio driving into school in high school, and like
I think me and Big Cat both had the same point of view when it came to like the sports media ecosystem, which is, they took themselves very seriously. You would get dressed up in a suit and tie to get on TV and scream and yell about the National Football League, and it was like they weren't treating the viewers with respect. Almost. It's like they became so self-important when they were talking about this stuff. And then I also became obsessed with the comment section. Anybody that would like comment on an article and their mindset that they almost took the league more seriously than people who were being paid to write and talk about the league. And it became just this giant, like big big ball of gas of bluster of everybody that was obsessed with insisting their viewpoint was correct. And it was just very funny that they were taking it so seriously. So me and Big Cat started following each other online, and then we met up, had a beer, and said at some point we should do a podcast together. And then, time ticked by for about a year, brought us to the right spot, and we're like, okay, let's do this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So the etymology of PFT commenter is that you were actually commenting.
I was obsessed with the comment section.
And you were injecting a levity and humor and not so serious takes in the comment sections, or were you just reading them?
I would read the comment section, and then I created an account and a character that was like, what if you gave your typical commenter their own blog, and then gave them like a long form place to write about everything, and they had the stupidest takes on everything possible, and so that's kind of where I was.
So we intentionally have very dumb takes that might have a kernel of truth, but we're mocking as well. Like actually, when you retired, in 2015, I went to the Final Four in Indianapolis. We got like taken out to St. Elmo's. We went and sat in the basement where Peyton Manning used to do his dinners. I think you used to do your dinners. And I asked them what you order, and I think the waiter said chicken. And then like I was like, yeah, no shit, Andrew Luck retired. He's a chicken guy over steak. Like that. That's my take now. You know what I mean? Like something like that where we're mocking this entire idea that like you aren't allowed to retire when you want to retire. Like, you owed it to us.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but you did owe it to the fantasy owners and OJ. So wait. So the real question though, when you retired, because I think everyone thinks this, was there ever a second where you got a call or you're like, oh, maybe I want to come back? Because I think that's the part that people always are drawn to, whether it be Barry Sanders or Calvin Johnson or anyone who walks away a little bit early.
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. They always think in the off season or just random times like, oh, maybe Andrew Luck will come back. You know what I mean? And so it's a dumb thing that fans do, but they have that in the back of their head for a very long time thinking, oh yeah, maybe he's going to come back. There was never a second where it was even like a little bit of, ooh, maybe I should do it.
Nope.
That's pretty awesome. Because I don't think having that clarity and having that ability to be like, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you got calls.
No.
I said the one from, was it Frank Reich texted you being like message in a bottle? I sent it out in SOS.
I have a great relationship with
Yeah,
Frank.
yeah.
And
Being like, please.
and Nick Sirianni, and stoked for him as well. But no, I would stay friendly with Frank and
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
no. And again, I love football in a different way.
Right.
Now, it's why I volunteer coached at Palo Alto High School for the past couple of years. It's why I'm back in this position for many reasons, at Stanford, and but just not as a quarterback.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I do have some tape for you that I want to watch real quick, Max, if you pull it up. One of the things I loved about you quarterbacking is I feel like you were in the mold of like, I don't want to swear on camera. You probably don't remember this, but this is tape of you. You short-circuited when you swore by accident. Do you remember this?
I absolutely remember it.
Okay, play it real
There's
quick.
more context.
You
here.
literally short-circuited. I've never seen someone's brain short-circuit live on air. All right, go ahead.
Look at the film. Look at the highlights. He's the guy that just makes plays. Oh, sorry. Shoot, makes plays and just gets done.
When
I
you
apologize for that.
when you look at heading into a bye week,
You were so mad at yourself. It was just a swear. You were
First of all,
you were
my-
like devastated.
Big Cat, my beard's not that bad.
No, that's a
I
good
didn't
beard.
say your beard was bad. Gruden
Fair.
said your beard was bad.
Oh, John,
Yeah,
Coach
yeah.
Gruden, my beard's not that bad. I'm
Yeah.
also late 20s, not early 20s. I did say that was about Griff Whalen, who was my college roommate, a walk-on, Toledo, Ohio, Sylvania Southview, earned a scholarship, had a legit NFL career, also one of Sam's roommates as well. One of my best friends in the world. That was after the Denver Broncos, 2015? 15, I want to say.
Okay.
2015. What's the timestamp of the Twitter thing?
Oh, this was just me after you retired. I just said now
Oh.
you can swear whenever you want.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. That was a Peyton coming back to Indy, which is like cool, like electric atmospheres. There'd been a lot going on that year. We were sort of going like this, and then that year we were going like that. And I lacerated my kidney in that game with like 7 minutes left.
Oh no!
When a knee got me, so I ended up in the emergency room the next day because I was not feeling so very good. And so I think that's truly, authentically how I felt in the moment. Griff Whalen just made fucking plays that game.
Yeah.
And we won.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
Yeah. And then
fair.
And Ahmad Bradshaw caught a touchdown to sort of ice the game. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Also, anybody that sees you retire and is like that fucking pussy, I would kill to play quarterback. You lacerated your kidney in a game.
Yeah.
Like that's it. I think most.
And you just described it as I wasn't feeling very good.
Yeah, most reasonable people, if they went out there and they did something at their job where they went home one day with a lacerated kidney, they'd probably talk to their wife and be like, I don't know if this is the right career for me.
Yeah.
I think that's a completely fair conversation to have. And then there is a flip side to it, though. So once you reach that decision where you say, I'm confident, I no longer, my heart's not in it, it's not fair to everybody else if I keep playing, it's not fair to myself if I keep playing, that's got to be a great moment of clarity where you realize confidently this is what I want to do. And then after you actually walk away, there's probably going to be some time where you have to establish a brand new identity for yourself because your job, if you're an NFL player and a quarterback especially, for so long, that's been a big part of your identity. And so did you feel like, I don't want to say empty if that's the right word, but did you feel like, okay, I need to separate myself and start my own new identity at this moment?
Before I answer that, I'll go back to the job thing and the lacerating kidney. Mm-hmm. It was such a privilege to play quarterback and to make money doing it and do it. Like, it was awesome. So I never once felt pity for myself for playing the position and getting paid. amazing.
Right.
Amazing. 2, identity. Yeah, it was way more. Being a quarterback was way more of my identity than I realized. Absolutely. And in discovering, I don't mean this, maybe it sounds mumbo jumbo, but like having to learn about myself and discover a new one. And like we had our first daughter born a few months after I retired. That certainly helped provide purpose. Like obviously there's a deep biological purpose, you know, of like kids, you know, and tending to them. But my wife also, like, she, you know, I was processing COVID hits, so we're all together with a little baby, you know, stuff, and I was processing football, and I'm, you know, in a career, and you know, finding myself, and had some amazing people, you know, through it, and still, and friends, etc. And she turned to me at one day, and I'm an out loud processor, like, you know, I just talk, and most of it's just like air if I'm just, you know, and she's like, she turned to me one day in the middle of COVID, and I was like, is it possible for someone to talk about themselves more than you right now? And I said, probably not. I kept doing it. And we made it through. But yeah, a big part of it was identity. And I think it's like, you know, sort of locating myself, who I am in the world, and grounding me in it. I think that was part of the process.
Yeah.
Did you ever, did your dad call you up when he started the XFL? Did he call you and say, "Hey, Andrew, I can get you 25 million.
Really?
You want to come back
really
for one
use you
season?"
for a game.
Bad question. Yeah. No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, it's reading that article, like I said, everyone should go read it, because it did feel like
you do read, man.
I do read, but it's an article.
It's
and
about
it took
sports.
me, I think that
That wasn't a short article.
I think I
as
stopped
remember.
and started 4 different times.
You made it through.
Yeah, but I made
Four
it through.
quarters. 4 quarters. Hey, when you got to the 4th restart, like 4 quarter, did you
I
give
put
yourself
up the
one?
4s. I was like, hell yes, put up the 4s. Oh man, do you ever dream of football?
I have dreamt of football.
Like, do you have memories of like games and stuff where you're dreaming, you wake up, you're like, oh shit, that was weird.
No. The last time I dreamt about football, I want to say was like showing up to a locker room without like the equipment and freaking out that like, where's my helmet? I can't go. Like the embarrassed dream. I don't know. If, you know, like the what the heck? Like the freak out. You're never actually playing, but like I don't have the helmet and my hip pads. Where are my hip pads?
Right.
I need my hip pads and my tailbone pad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hurt my tailbone.
I think it's a pretty common dream. Most people have it just about like high school, and
Yeah.
they show up for the last day and they haven't gone to that class all semester.
Yeah.
You just think about that like football, like, oh, I'm not prepared.
But it was
for
once.
this.
It was. I don't remember what it was, but I remember waking up thinking like, that weird.
Yeah.
Do you still watch the NFL?
Yeah, I do.
Do you find yourself like rooting for the Colts? Do you find yourself rooting for quarterbacks?
I absolutely have a soft spot in my heart for the Colts. I mean, like, spent age 21 drafted there. Like, I felt like a kid when I was drafted there. My girlfriend and I went there. Like, we grew up in a sense there. Our daughters were born there. Like, highs and lows, memories. Like, life was lived there. Like, lived. I very much feel that. So I absolutely have a soft spot there. And guys like Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly, who's a free agent now, like Braden Smith, Jack Doyle played after. Like, Jack Doyle was one of my favorite teammates ever. So of course root for those guys when things happen. And then watching the NFL for me now is who do I know on the team, if anybody, which gets fewer and fewer guys every year. And now it's more what coaches do I know that are coaching on the teams. And like, so this year it's like watching Zach Ertz play for Washington. It's like, you know, I've known Zach since he was 17. I was 18. He's a year behind me in school. Like, we worked out together. I accidentally whacked. One time I was, we went through a phase where we were stretching with like those long wooden staffs. Like, I don't know, like felt like a movie or something. And I was sitting there with it behind my back, and I turned and I just whipped it around and I whacked him right in the face. And Zach didn't beat me up, which was good. We always worked out together. But so, like, I root for him.
Yeah.
For sure. And Tavita Pritchard's the quarterback coach in Washington. And Tavita and I were teammates. Like, so I root for him, of course. And then Nick Sirianni and Vic Fangio are on the Eagles.
Yeah.
You know, during their thing. So I try to root for them as well. It becomes like my fandom, like my team fandom is like soccer, U.S. national team. Like, that's what I'll get fandom. Or like watching Stanford men's hoops or women's hoops or any Stanford team. Like, that's where I let myself just be a fan.
Yeah.
Because it's fun to be a fan. Right. Like, really fun to be a fan. But when watching NFL, it's more, hey, can my guys make it out healthy?
Right.
And can they go ball out and win?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it might have been right before the draft. You might have done like a walk and talk with Peter King at some point, and you fascinated him with your love of architecture. Are you still a big architecture guy?
Big architecture guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a tough architecture
Also, I
question.
grew up reading Peter King.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like so that was fun for me. Like I loved reading. You know, I loved getting Sports Illustrateds. I loved reading like Rick Riley in the last page when I was doing that comment. Like I died for the Houston Chronicle in the mornings in Houston because Norman Chad had its syndicated column. You know, like the nationally syndicated column there.
Yeah.
That I felt like that type of humor hit me as whatever a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So it was cool. Like those were pinch me moments in the NFL, like walking with Peter King.
Yeah. So you guys were looking at the architect. Was that in Chicago?
I don't remember.
It might have been, but so he
Great architecture boat tour here, by the way.
great architecture. boat
Great.
tour. Yeah, how many times have you been on it?
2 times.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's awesome. It's very fun. All right, so are you familiar with the premise FMK? Fuck, marry, kill. So you got to fuck one, you got to marry one, you got to kill one.
No.
And it's
He's going to
but wait,
short
but
circuit
wait,
again.
I'll listen to the question. I reserve the right to not
Okay.
answer a
All right.
question.
fuck, marry, kill, Doric columns, Ionian columns, Corinthian columns.
Ooh, good question. Good question.
Not answering it.
Can you rank them?
Yeah, I rank them.
Yeah, look, I want to, if I'm remembering correctly, the Corinthian column is a bit too flowery for my aesthetic taste.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Doric has a level of simplicity and very much form is connected to function, which I find pleasing. And Ionics, yeah, it's cool, it's groovy.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair. I think I would say marry Ionian. I think I would kill Doric, and then I would have sex with the Corinthian column.
That makes sense.
But you don't settle down
That
with
makes sense.
What are your thoughts on Soviet brutalism?
No positive thoughts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Coach Gruden. Coach Gruden. Yeah.
The Soviet brutalism is also inextricably linked to the use of concrete.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
that's my thought.
It's like
Yeah, yeah.
designed to kill your soul.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Coach Gruden actually said that he was shocked that you knew every part about cement. I don't know why that shocked him.
I went
but
on a cement kick, read a book. I certainly did not know every part of
Yeah,
cement.
he was just like,
No
that
way.
guy, he knows everything about cement when I told him you were coming in. So I don't know, do you still know everything about cement?
No, I never did, and,
Okay.
and certainly do not. But I do think what's fascinating about cement,
Yeah, let's go. Yeah. This is the good stuff.
I think they just realized they did like just prove this. Like Roman stuff has stood for a long time, like way longer than the roads and bridges we've been building.
Yep.
Here in the world, not just here, but sort of here. And they realized that somehow baked into the property of this, man, I'm going to mess this up. But when Roman cement like fixes itself, when it cracks, like something about oxygen and water getting in activates like a self-healing mechanism. I think like researchers in Australia, I could be completely wrong in the language I'm using, but just Google it.
What else have you been reading about?
I've been on a sci-fi kick lately.
Oh.
Okay.
I think when I realized taking a job, being a general manager, like I'm using brain power again a lot. And,
Yeah.
and there's real stuff and et cetera. And so at the end of the nights, I like to read before going to bed. And I've been on the series, the Red Rising series of good sci-fi.
This is a book or a show?
It's a book.
Okay.
They'll make a show eventually.
Yeah.
And then
It
we'll
probably
watch
will
it,
happen.
and then
Yeah.
we'll say that we read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you watch Severance?
Say it again.
Do you watch Severance?
I don't watch Severance.
You
I know.
should.
I know what it is. Cool. That's the second person in the last 2 days to tell me about Jack Muhort, my old teammate in Indianapolis. I was talking to him because I'm going to Toledo and staying with him tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we were talking. He's like, he asked the same question.
Yes. Severance
Oh,
is
good
very
show.
good.
But you're reminding me of we had a Game of Thrones book club in our Stanford locker room back in the day. We would get into there were 4 or 5 of us, myself included, that when I read. Are you Game of Thrones people?
We watched
seen
the
it,
show,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. When the red wedding scene came up in book whatever, I want to say 3, and I read it and stormed into the locker room like very emotionally shook by this thing. And we had it turned out that all of us were in the shower yelling about Game of Thrones at the time, like, the whole thing. And a few people walked in and like, what the heck are these guys doing? And so I felt like the cool kid when the world was freaking out about the Red Wedding episode. I was like, nah, you don't know about everybody who already knows about this.
Yeah.
Who's had years to emotionally process what just happened. We are ahead of you guys. All of y'all. We are ahead.
That's
Did
incredible.
you find yourself ready for it when it came out?
The show?
Yeah. When the Red Wedding specifically happened.
Well, I didn't really watch the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
I read the books.
Yeah, you're like, I already know.
I mean, I
everything.
picked episodes here and there, just, whatever is cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start reading about. I'm going to read one book about cement this year. I'm writing.
You don't
it
have
down.
to do that to yourself.
I'm not. I'll read a Twitter thread.
Yeah,
I can find
that's
one,
a good point.
good one, a good
One
Twitter
book about
thread.
cement.
Just really break down that. So wait, American soccer, real quick. Are we going to win the World Cup?
Oh, yeah. You
We
better.
are?
Why not?
Do you think we would be better if we had like LeBron, Wemby, Luka on the team?
Not Luka and Wemby because they
No,
represent
they would
other
be.
countries.
No, they
Big
would be
time.
on our
You're
team.
better than that.
They would be on our team.
You're better than that.
Joel Embiid.
Joel
He's
Embiid.
American.
Oh, yeah.
Shake SGA playing.
I have no idea
Okay,
if we would be better or not.
the answer is yes. if we just put our
Jaden Daniels.
best,
Oh, he'd be so good.
our best players. No, we
Yeah.
just do that to troll and get people upset.
OBJ was an incredible soccer player, I want to say.
I believe it. So wait, we're not going to win anything though.
I'm so hopeful. I'm eternally optimistic as a U.S. soccer fan. The World Cup's going to be here and in Mexico and Canada. And yeah, it's fun to be a fan. It's fun to be a fan of your national team.
Yeah.
Like
It's fun to win though.
also
and I
like
wish
being
we'd
at
win.
I got to go to the Olympics. My wife's a producer for gymnastics on television, so she was working and I was just like having the time of my life, rooting for Americans. Bringing my daughters to stuff and there were like 59 Stanford athletes there, including like friends of ours that we were freshmen together, like Katerina Stefanidi or Eric Shoji. It's amazing. Like watching Katie Ledecky swim was so cool. It's fun to root for America in sports. It's really fun. Really, really, really fun. I enjoyed that a lot. And my wife, but she stole the tickets to the women's gold medal match, soccer. So she got to go with her friends, and that's the one thing I was jealous of her about from that trip. She got to go to that gold medal match of the women and watch us win.
Yeah. By the way,
We love winners here.
We love
just
winners.
love
We
winners
love
in
winners.
America.
And I'll tell you what, the roster that we have right now, I've been telling Big Cat this for the last 2 years. Going into this World Cup, that is the best roster that the U.S. will have ever had at that point. Just looking at the players that play competitively overseas, that's as talented as we've ever been, I think. And if we're gonna do it, it's gonna be at home in this World Cup. So get all in right now on U.S. soccer.
I'm with you. Get all in. I maybe I don't have as deep a perspective as you, PFT.
No, I just gave you everything I know.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well, I like it. I'm all in, and I do think it seems like at scale we have a lot of guys competing in really important places around the world, and the MLS is stronger than it's ever been. Like our domestic game is stronger than it's ever been. So.
And I'm thinking maybe our new coach, he's very close with Messi. Why not just have Messi become a U.S. citizen?
yeah,
I mean, it doesn't work like that though.
No, it does.
He's already cap tied to Argentina.
you can do whatever.
No,
you
you
want.
can't. You
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
do it.
Cap
Not
tied.
in
That's
soccer.
It's just
Cap-
talking.
cap tied.
Oh, he's cap tied? Oh, no. We can't figure out a way around
But-
that. No.
By the way, 20
FIFA would never allow something illegal to happen. That's not a problem that money can fix.
2014 USC versus Stanford, 4th and 13 at the USC 32 punt, and then 4th and 22 at the USC 29
Ooh.
punt for a touchback. That's a 9-yard punt.
So I don't think we'll ever get Messi on the U.S. roster, and I'm very excited. And I'm very excited for the World Cup.
You get
And
this
I-
show
and
now.
anytime
You
we-
get this show.
Anytime we talk about soccer, one of the things I was stoked about when I was still playing professionally and I was in Europe for something in the offseason. I was like, I gotta go see Christian Pulisic play.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
was still playing for Borussia Dortmund, so I hopped in the car. I was in Amsterdam and I drove over and I reached out to his agent, so I got to watch the game. Unfortunately, he maybe even played like 10 minutes at the end of the game. It was like versus Hoffenheim or someone, I want to say. But I got to have pizza with Christian afterwards. And I'm a fan.
Yeah.
He's younger, but I'm a fan. He's a cool dude, so I'm stoked for what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
And then I hope somehow, some way, we channel the attitude that Clint Dempsey brought to the soccer team
Yep.
and to just sports in general, because that dude was so fun to watch. I loved watching him from like East Texas. It's an amazing story, and he was tough. And one of my favorite quotes, like sport quotes all the time, was Bruce Arena when he was I think he was the men's national team coach at this point, asked about like what made Clint different or special. He's like, because he tries shit, and like Clint did. And he was so fun to watch. So
He was never scared.
no, never scared.
really-
Like all those clips of him getting. I mean, watching the clips now, they're on the internets and the YouTubes and such. But like watching him play, well, like that was an attitude that I think resonated with a lot of us watching.
You need a guy like that to beat Mexico. That's not afraid of Mexico. And he was the best. Maybe Joe Scally's our guy.
You think
He's
so?
one of the defenders on the team. He's one of our security guys' nephews.
Yeah.
Really?
Which is
Long
pretty
Island-
cool.
or,
yeah.
Staten Island.
Staten Island
cool.
guy. We need some like Staten Island tough guy on our team.
East Texas or Staten Island,
Yeah.
one of the two.
4th and 11 from the Cal 34. 10 minutes left in the game. Punt.
I mean, you're not going to beat the 29.
29 is crazy.
That's like a piece of art. Okay, I have a serious question for you.
Oh.
Hypothetically, the Colts make it to the Super Bowl, but Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco both get mono. And they can't play.
Yep.
They weren't kissing each
Was
other.
this freshman year of college?
They're
Yeah.
kissing somebody else.
Yeah.
And you get a call. Andrew, can you play in the Super Bowl for us? You don't even have to practice. You probably want to practice. You have to practice 3 days and then play in the Super Bowl. What do you say?
No, thank you. Appreciate it. And I'll say what, that's cheap. That's not. You gotta go all season. You gotta practice. You gotta earn it.
Got to earn that
You
ring.
gotta earn it.
Yeah.
What if
I'd be hyped for the Colts though if they're there.
What if Jim Irsay calls you up? He's like, "Hey, we got this new technology. We're turning injuries off for an entire season. Would you come back and play? Injuries off. You literally cannot get injured."
No, I'd ask to be able to invest in the technology.
Okay, all right, that's actually
Smart answer.
We need to get this technology.
Did Jim Irsay ever show you his guitar collection?
His guitar collection's sweet.
Yes,
It seems
And like
it's
I grew
pretty
up listening to classic rock because my dad's a classic rockophile. You know, like the first concert my dad took me to was ZZ Top in Houston, which is like, yeah, it's a great gateway concert into live shows. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And then went to Springsteen. We actually came to Chicago one year to see the Stones at whatever the basketball arena is,
United Center, yeah.
United Center. And so like going into his office, he does have an incredible guitar collection. And then when you go to Stanford, you realize the Grateful Dead is a thing, and like and Jerry Garcia, and so and we have friends that are Deadheads, and like the Dead used to do impromptu shows on campus back in the day. Like there's a whole culture in Palo Alto around the Grateful Dead. So to see like a Jerry Garcia guitar actually meant a little bit of something to me. But yeah, and the Beatles drum set.
Yeah, he's got it all.
It's cool.
He's convinced, and I think he's convinced me that the technology will exist one day to extract all the sounds that have ever been played out of an instrument, just have it play. I guess the best way to say it is he believes if you buy a guitar from Eric Clapton, somewhere in that wood it's the actual music and the actual notes that were once played, and eventually we'll be able to hook a machine up to it and get that exact sound out of the guitar. Do you believe that?
Cool.
Yeah,
I believe it.
I believe it. If he believes it, I believe it.
Things I don't understand, I just believe.
Yeah.
It's a good default. Big cat.
Yeah. It's like, all right, that sounds cool.
Healthy way to live life.
Yeah.
I mean, would you rather that technology existed? I would.
Yeah.
I would choose to live in that world.
Absolutely. Well,
this conversation is devolving.
yeah, it always does. This has been so awesome, though. We really appreciate it. I have one last question for you. It's a rowback question. RHOBACK.com, promo code TAKE. 20% off your first purchase. Q-zips, polos, hoodies, joggers, shorts. Rowback.com, promo code TAKE. Go right now. Huddle hoodie is the new one that I love. Rowback.com, promo code TAKE.
You did that so well. Stop.
I do it every time.
That was wow.
We have a Rowback question to finish every interview. Shout out Rowback, our wonderful sponsor. Is
Again,
there one
so well done.
Is there one pass that you think of? You're like, yeah, that was it. That was it. Like, remember me for this one pass, this one play.
Remember me for
Yes.
this.
No, but I would assume like there's one that you could think of. Be like, man, did I absolutely fucking crush that?
It's funny. I think of interceptions I've thrown more than I think of like sweet tutters.
Right.
that have come. No, I'll be honest. Part of what was so fun, Frank Reich asked me this, like, what do you love about football? We were sitting talking once before I retired. I said, like, dude, I get to throw the ball to my friends. Like,
Yeah.
like
You're
that's
playing catch. Yeah.
like, it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so there is not one throw. There's not one throw to rule them all. But like throwing to T.Y. Hilton and Jack Doyle and had an amazing year with, Eric Ebron had this. We had an incredible year together, and Kobe Fleener and Griff. Like I got to play in the NFL with my college roommate Griff Whalen, and he caught touchdowns. Like he ran a bang 8 on a skinny post. I think on one of the Texans corners in the big game. Like this is an undrafted guy, a walk-on receiver who's playing. Like that's awesome. Kobe Fleener and I played together in college. So I feel very fortunate that I got to throw the football to my friends. And especially T.Y. Hilton. Like I'll say this again. I don't think it's fun to play with a guy who's different, and he was different.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure he gets the respect he deserves for what he did on the football field.
I'd agree with that.
He brought an attitude that was just awesome, and like we probably couldn't have come from 2 different places, but like it's part of what's amazing about sports and football in particular. I know this is an unserious podcast, but I will be serious. Like I get like we're friends,
Right.
I don't get that otherwise,
Right.
Like that, my life is like way better for that, and that's just one micro. I got to play with Frank Gore, who's awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Like no one knew pass protection better than Frank Gore. The dude got football. Like he would pick stuff out before I would pick it out. He'd start yelling at the lineman about what technique to use. Like he is the teach tape on how to be a pass protecting running back, and he's also the teach tape on how to be a gap scheme running back. Like the dude was unbelievable. I got to play with Ahmad Brashaw from Bluefield, West Virginia. Yeah, right. Like he's a dog and tough. He caught 8 touchdown passes one year. Like that part of football, I think, I say grateful, like, I got paid and I get to make choices in life that I know others don't. I get privilege and it's amazing. But like, it's more that like, I got to play football. I got to throw a ball to my friends and like nerd out over snap. Like who gets to, like a portion of my salary went to finding a better snap count. Yeah. I got paid to sit in a room and then go out to practice and think about and talk to left tackles and guys. All right, this week, guys, we're going to use black as the color. That's the live color. We're going to do a triple count. We're going to say it 3 times. We're going to go, say go, hot, and then I'm going to go kill, 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 because last week we did kill, 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 and we ran the ball, and then we're going to go red 80, red 80, hot, 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 and then we're going to go black 80, black, like. Yeah. It was awesome. Are you kidding? What type of life is that?
That is awesome.
And now I get to be back in football in a different capacity with Stanford at an alma mater that I love, and people are counting us out, and they're wrong to count us out. Yeah. So get on early, just like the U.S. national team.
Yep. Now's the time.
And this interview has been everything we wanted for, it's been a 7-year wait, and I want to say that this has been so awesome to have you here. And also you're making us better podcasters because you got a little emotional there, and you mentioned Frank Gore, and I didn't mention the fact that he has enormous balls, and I used to take videos of him running without any type of underwear on. His balls would be flopping everywhere.
But Big Cat would have done that.
I was this close to saying it, but I was like, you know what? Let me let Andrew finish his moment. So thank you for making us better.
That's good discipline.
Yeah,
I'm really proud of you.
If they zoom in on my face, I was just like,
I'm really proud of you.
Say Frank Gore has huge balls.
Look at
this. Look at the picture. Look how big his balls are. That's insane. I think you get the show now.
If there's not one pass to remember you by, what about a half? What about that playoff game against Kansas City?
Yeah.
How cool was that?
We've had some good halves like that. Also been part of some bad halves.
Yeah.
Some of them in New England.
But how fun was that?
That was cool. Actually, Alex and I were talking of Alex Smith's awesome, by the way. I mean, like, you want a role model in life, like that dude is cool. But we were talking about that recently. We live not too far from each other and get to run into each other every now and then. And that one, I was glad to be on the other side of it. The ball bounced our way. I think they lost like 4 guys in the secondary throughout the game, right? So like we were rolling. But I do remember one play from that game. We were in a timeout, and we had Fleener, T.Y., and another receiver, I wasn't sure who, ready to go. I don't know what down and distances was, but we were sitting there. Pep and I were talking. Pep Hamilton, OC at the time. We were sitting there like, let's switch. originally Kobe was supposed to run a clear out post and T.Y. was going to get the corner. And then I was like, I think one of us or either T.Y. was like, they can't run with him right now. Like they just can't run with T.Y. Hilton. So
Right.
let's put T.Y. on the post and Kobe on the corner. So we came out of the timeout. We did it. I remember looking in the huddle at T.Y. And saying something like, run, motherfucker, like run.
Right.
You're going to get it. Like you're going to get it. And Bruce Arians used to just call T.Y. little motherfucker, come on, little motherfucker, come on. It's, all the time. And is that what cussing on podcast feels like? That's a good feeling. So he did. He ran. And he took the top off, and the ball, and we, protected it up, and the ball made it there, and he scored. But it was fun to feel like the first half was everything could go wrong, and the second half was sort of everything was just going right.
It was an awesome
It was
game.
a great game.
It was an awesome
Yeah.
game. Well, Andrew, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it. You're a recurring guest now, so you have to come on anytime we ask. I don't know if you knew that. You didn't read the fine print for that.
That's right. You're Stanford fans now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Listen, when
I
you want
know
to,
that.
when we want to push Stanford, because little old Stanford needs some NIL money, we'll help you. Stanford doesn't need anything. You guys got it. Turn that fire hose on.
All right, me and Big Cat, we're also thinking about, as quarterbacks, we want to start a company that just need one drop of blood, and then you could examine that, and then you could change the world. Do you have contacts that can help us?
There's
with our
old
vision?
Theranos office space.
Yeah.
I think that's available.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
we're in.
Good. Let's
We're
do
in.
it. Yep.
We're in. We'll come play quarterback.
No, good luck. We'll
Yeah.
be rooting for you.
Yeah, we will.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun when Stanford gets in the mix. I mean, your guys' teams with Harbaugh it was fun just watching you, especially like it's watching Pete Carroll be like, this isn't supposed to be happening. Like Stanford's not supposed to beat us. Like it was just fun to watch. So
I had fun watching Stanford after too. Watching
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey and Bryce Love on Coach Shaw's teams, and
Yeah.
we'll get there.
yeah,
Great
We'll
mascot,
get there.
too.
yeah, great
The best.
mascot.
The tree.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Andrew. Appreciate it, man.
My pleasure.